سلام تخاتلتي مدبر تلفزيون إريسات كما يتقنون باركت حجخا كالأي كفالو أتي أب جنبا أبتشن أحد حمشن استخايدة نعدلو دك نسيو عدهيبو استخايدة مدرخ قدام أي كفالو نقودا إرتاد تقورة قال إحنا يوم بارنا ذكروا حجخا كالأي كفالو حزنا يوم جئنا لنا نمكتالو بخبر نعدم
I'd like to know if you have a specific approach to this.
Thank you. The next speaker is Madam Gubedema. You have the floor.
Very much, Madam Chair. Respected delegation from Eritrea, I will speak on the situation of rural women. And there will be some points of convergence between my intervention and the last speaker. First of all, it is commendable that the government has taken some of the recommendations in the last concluding observations. And therefore, in the area of rural women, we have data on access to clean water, agricultural inputs, and so on. But I would like to ask what women's participation is in local governance and the management of those resources. Because indeed, you've told us that elections are held at the local level, women participate. How do they involve themselves in decisions regarding the clean water, the allocation of the agricultural inputs, and the data that you have given us in that part of the report? We are also in a difficulty as how to access the advancement in the rural areas because the data given, for example, in education, in health, does not disaggregate the statistics according to urban and rural. So that assessment is a bit difficult for us. Let me come to the issue of land distribution. In your report, land is allocated to husband and wife in the name of the head of the family. That is in the reply to the list of issues, paragraph 18. But given that the report, that segment already says that women have 32.2% access to land, does it not mean that about 68% is in the hands of men as title holders? And if that is so, in the issue, in the relationship between husband and wife, how would a wife be able to assert her legal claim on that document, especially when we are talking about the use of the property for collateral? Would like clarification there. As regards the training, the inputs, the chickens and agricultural inputs and so on, has there been an impact assessment on that scheme, and what results do we have? This will take me to the issue of agriculture. Indeed, as the previous speaker said, women contribute about 73% in the agricultural sector. And conversely, they have this small amount of land. And when we look at the land allocation also to women, I see that their take-up rate in the commercial areas, commercial land allocation, is very small. We have no statistics to show what they take as far as farming and subsistence farming is concerned. So there again, there's a lacuna that we would like clarity on. The issue of women farming and land is critical because in the Global Hunger Index, for 2012 to 2014, 2012, Eritrea was 78 out of 79. And in 2014, 75 out of 76, taking almost second position from the bottom. How do we reconcile this with the issue of food security, with the issue of land allocation, and with the issue of the output or the impact of all these agricultural interventions? On the issue of maternal mortality and infant mortality also. These are also answers we'd like to have. Let me finally move to the emerging area of mining. which from the delegation's result is the way you are going now. In the issue of mining, we would like to ask what women's involvement is, especially since we are talking about a bottom-up approach. In the contracts, the documents, what does local content provide for the participation of the local women? How are they taking decisions as regards environmental impact and the environmental aspect of mining? Has a study been undertaken, and what has come, or what are the results of that study? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I will give the floor to the delegation. So, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you. On the issue of land, I think it was the question of women's rights and access to land, which also cuts upon the Sharia law. In Eritrea, we have the Proclamation 58 of 1994, which was a groundbreaking in the history of Eritrea, so that women were able to have access to land and have their share equally. However, we have also, the government of Eritrea also recognizes Sharia law as a law that adjudicates marriage, divorce, and inheritance. It is a divine law, Sharia is a divine law that 50% of the Eritrean community believe in, and this was a choice left to the people, and the government has nothing to do with religious issues, except to encourage the choice of the people, and except to take some appropriate measures so that people will be able to know which rights are beneficial to them. Women in Eritrea, according to the proclamation, have the right to have access to land, and they are equally on that footing. They can take land with their husband even, and even in their own name. So the issue of Sharia comes on the inheritance, divorce, and marriage, which is left to the choice of the people. This is something religion, and the government should only respect what the government or the people choose to go for. However, there is also a room where I can be a Muslim and I can go and have my marriage contract on the civil status, and I will be subject to the obligations of the Civil Code of Eritrea, and I will be going through it for marriage and for divorce. But we can't see this issue as a problem for the government at this stage, and we do have some committees at village level where they will try to accommodate interests. They will try to see how women are treated on the village level for their farming, for their living, and for their the so-called TESA in our local language, which is the village of origin. So these are the issues that come on the issue of the land proclamation, but the proclamation is clear and it gives right to all. But if I believe in my religious rights are also reserved, and there is also a room to go for the other issue, and this is simply respecting one's religion. On the issue of environment impact assessment, to go to the mining sector also, environment impact assessment, there is a law in Eritrea for environment impact assessment. I'm not sure, and I can't give you which surveys have been conducted by the government, but there is a law, and whenever a mining company comes, there is the understanding that this company should underway and undertake this environment impact assessment at the beginning, at the process progress, and at the end of this is the understanding that prevails on the issue. On the issue of recruitment, probably we are gender sensitive. Once a vacancy is posted for the public, it should consider sex and other requirements. And this is, I think, the way we can only have control on how to recruit people, and then through the progress, you can also have those mechanisms that will go on the workplace. So even women are there, and all the vacancies that are posted for public are gender sensitive. And as much as possible, the National Union of Eritrean Women and the villages themselves try to have some sort of mechanism to balance and make the equilibrium at the lowest level possible. But there can be discrepancies on that issue. Thank you.
To add a few points, I would go back to Madam Pomeranzi's issues. We are fortunate enough that we have a lot of fertile lands in our country. In fact, the government have launched a new program which is resettling people from their drought-stricken area to the fertile area. So a lot of villages with their own choice are now going to the fertile areas where they can plow their land and improve their livestock capacity. So women are part of this program. In terms of distribution of land, as it was said, by proclamation, it was actually 1994 proclamation, the land proclamation. After, even before we got our sovereignty, our independence, because we have to go through referendum and all and that to get our independence. So before even that, before we became full-fledged nation, that proclamation came out. And this is to the interest of women. Women have equal rights with men in our society. So the land is also equally accessible to women. In the document, it says 32.2% access to land distribution. This is for women-headed households only. There are certain families which are female households. So the households which are headed by female, they have reached to 32.2% accessing land for housing, for commercial agriculture, and for commercial enterprises. This is meant for the women households. But for the family which is run by husband and the wife, the land allocated to that family is owned by them 50-50. In case of divorce, 50% goes to the woman, 50% goes to the man, if any divorce happens. Otherwise, that land is allocated for the family, for the mother and the children and the husband. This is a clear policy, clear proclamation, clear law of the government, and it never discriminated women. With regards to local land distributors or authorities, yes, land is distributed at the village level by committees of land distribution or land tenure committees. And as we said in the report this morning, if the land distribution committee doesn't have one woman member, a place is reserved for them, it will not work. It doesn't work. It's not acceptable. This is number one. So if you put a woman in the distributing committee, she will keep her interest and protect the interest of other female counterparts. This is one thing. The other thing is the law protects her. No one can discriminate a woman from distribution land because the land is government's property. Previously, before 1994, land was owned by the community, land owned by villages, land was owned by rich village people, etc. And the poor doesn't even have land. But after 1994, all land was reserved and became property of the government. Who wants to plow gets a land. Who doesn't want to plow, he cannot reserve a land while sitting in Rome or sitting in maybe in the capital cities out of the village. No, you have to be near the land, work on the land to get a land. This is also another policy. So I think women are on this area or on this junction, they are well treated. It doesn't mean that there are no shortcomings. There are no shortcomings, we cannot say. But when any person who works against this is found, then the law will take its toll. The role of National Union of Eritrean Women in this junction is very, very tough, we can say. It's very strong. So they stand there to protect the rights of women. So if any woman who complains and says, "Oh, I'm discriminated," it's just it's not just going to be an issue. It's solved automatically. In regards to the UN or EU and all these programs, projects funded to support the rural women, in case women are not included, yeah, it's true. This can happen, but we have a policy which says any project, any program devised, if it doesn't keep the interest of women, it's not going to be funded. This is also one mechanism that put in place. Meaning, how many women beneficiaries do we have in this project? What is the role of women here? For instance, in clean water programs. For instance, in plowing of horticulture or vegetables, etc. What is the interest of women? Always we have to check the interest of women. How many women are going to benefit from this? If there is no women's interest included, then that is discarded. So whichever support we get from UN or other interested agencies, this is a mandate to be, applied. With regards to the mining, before mining there is a global hunger index that put Eritrea 75 out of 76 on food security. I don't know the source again. We go back to the source. Is it authenticated by the government of state of Eritrea? If it is not authenticated, they have to face it. I mean, anybody cannot just produce anything from wherever and just distribute it. No. We have to challenge them as a government. They have to come to the table and show us this is it. Then, practically on the ground, whether we will be 75 out of 76 or whether we will be 5 out of 76. The ground, the objective situation should judge us. Not the cooking statistics is not a solution. Global hunger index, even in the UNDP index, sometimes Eritrea is rated as 188 country or something, the last one. But it's not true. It's really not true. So they have to come and challenge the government. This is what is happening. You are the 76 out of 75, and we'll show them practically what we are. And then the concrete situation will resolve the convergence of statistics going here and there. On the issue of mining, there is the Department of the Ministry of Mining and the Ministry of Environment, Land and Water is the sole government body to control and inspect environment assessment. So when the mining, as it was said, any mining company comes for exploration, they have to pass through this environment department, and they have to make their assessment and present the report to the Department of Environment, and Department of Environment have its own consultants, and they go and make the assessment. But not only this. This is from top-bottom approach. Bottom-up approach is if certain area, the dwellers there, the villagers in that area, could be 10 villages. From 10 villages, women and men come up together and follow what the mining companies are doing. They have to have a popular consultation with the dwellers within that area. So if they are going to dig and to throw, to drain all their toxic things, then they have to tell them how they do it before even they start digging the project. So we have the Bisha mining, we have the Zara mining, two big companies, and the environmental issue is well taken, really well taken. And the involvement of the villages around that is also considered. Thank you.
Now the floor is open to the forum questions. Madam Schultz, followed by Madam Pomeranti. Madam Schultz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I take advantage of what has been said to come back to something that has puzzled me. Madam, you have said that there is a distribution 50-50 in case of divorce. And in the report, and it was said again, that land is registered in the name of the head of the family. So I was wondering who the head of the family is, and if it is the man, and if the property is registered in his name, on what part of property will this distribution 50-50 take place? Does the woman then reappear so that she can take part in the distribution or not? So that's my first question. And then I have a very practical question. I worked a long time in an administration myself, and I was very often the only woman and actually also the only French-speaking woman in those committees. So I know that it's tough when you're the only one. So I was wondering how many members do these distributing committees have at a local level, and is being one of her kind enough to ensure overcoming the sometimes difficult balance of power between both sexes? Thank you.
Madam Pomeranti, you have the floor.
I thank the distinguished delegation for the answers that are surprising me, because I must say I am a development advisor, so I must say that the ideal situation you are describing is a good thing, but knowing what happened in many cases at the local level, I must say that a part of having the policy, you answer to the first part of my question. You have a policy that is 50-50% or gender equality in the rural development. So if I may say, I do think that there is a need to monitor constantly this possibility for the women to access to because there are distortion, because things are never like we would like to be, they be. So I would say that for me it would be interesting to know if you have some monitoring system, if you have specific mechanisms put in place with the new anti-poverty programs, with the new, let's say, within the new partnership you are having with the UN and the EU. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Gubedema, you have the floor.
In fact, the bulk of my question has been asked by Madam Schultz. I would like to know the percentage of women on these committees. One out of how many? Then secondly, my question was as to impact. When the environmental impact analysis is done, what are the gender concerns? The impact on women of mining? How many are on the committee? What indicators are looked at vis-a-vis women? So those are the kind of statistics or feedback that I was looking for. Then finally, I did ask that the urban-rural differentials in education, in health, were not provided. Could we have an indication of some of these indicators? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I will give the floor to the delegation, so you have the floor.
مباركس كبرات تخاتلتنا زي كالأي كفالي نيرو سالساين نيمو دعتان كفال أبزغت الحزنية أخمسينا نمكتالو أغدبنا بخبرون عدم أندير
Mandel.